On.
Ooh, recording.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. So, where were we?
We had our initial test chat, uh, which we discussed some basic stuff. What was that? It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. So we were going to go over something that explains why we are doing what we're doing, aren't we?
Yeah, we went into the context. I explained a bit about spectacle agency and how that's basically just a peer-to-peer context for connecting together and doing whatever you do. Within that context, we have our project, which is this book which within that context is a series of essays, which are basically the master gateways or master gates for
Right.
um,
That wonderful
awakening or
triggering,
whatever.
that wonderful
Yeah,
triggering phrasing.
yeah. The uh,
That,
the the ultimate trigger.
master gateway.
Mhm.
Giggity giggity. Sounds like that's like New Ageism with science fiction all at once.
How do you even get around it though?
Uh,
there's n-
slowly.
there's no way of
Well, no, you'll trigger somebody
describing.
somehow, but eventually you gotta relegate that something to stupidity. So, I mean, that's a kind of like the harshest. I think that's to my in my mind. I don't know how correct I am. How humble
Yeah,
that is.
there's definitely there are you could look at it like layers of ignorance. Some are kind of like behind more walls of ignorance or whatever than others. Some people are just willing to, or more open-minded, willing to look into stuff, especially if they've seen some kind of hint that it's relevant or important.
Right now, Lincoln's trying to poke you in the face. It's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's. No, he's given up.
Oh, good.
Uh, okay.
Cool. So I had some other ideas about these meetings. One
Hmm.
thing that I thought was what might be cool is um, just as a way of organizing it, um, because everything's relative. Words included, the meaning of everything, all that. So it's kind of hard to start with some kind of authoritative structure, like that you're saying that this is that.
Right,
Um,
like we're not the authority of the terminology used or something.
Yeah, and it's all kind of like floating in a web of spacey meaning that is kind of individual to each person's
It's
perspective.
self-consistent. It's not necessarily
It's synchronous. That
extrinsic.
it's when two people are talking about the same thing, quote unquote. It's there's synchronicity happening between their experiences.
Yeah.
So that's good enough. But so what I was thinking is if we um, if we recorded so we're recording these meetings, but if we had them like transcribed, maybe there's like an automated service, or I know some people who do transcriptions.
Hmm.
um, I have a script made, which is obviously pretty simple, that um, scrapes whatever input file you give to it, and then it gives a total of each word occurrence. So then
Okay.
you would have like this word cloud of everything we talk about, right? And then
Okay.
you would take kind of like the significant phrases or whatever, and then relate them to each other, like. And this would be the structure of the presentation of basically the map of meaning, um, and this would go beyond beyond the um, beyond like the I don't know what you would call it, like circumstantial um, what do you call it? Um, so what we'd be trying to get out of this is the more archetypal words or terms rather than the instances in which how we use them. So from what I've seen, any kind of mapping projects, meta mapping projects, they all seem to go after the mapping the instances in the world. Like from those links that I gave you, one example is like an opera happens in a city. So there's this specific opera, and
Mm-hmm.
it was created in this specific city. So you relate this city, call it whatever city name it is, to the name of the opera. You relate those two, right?
Mm-hmm.
But um, they these mapping projects or the mapping technology seems to stop short at simply having categories such as a city or an opera,
Yeah.
and it doesn't relate these categories to each other. So in other words, making the archetypal web of meaning, which is like your brain's map of understanding what words mean based on how they relate to each other, the types, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the goal, is to kind of pull that kind of map out and start mapping the archetypal space, like the web of meaning.
So if I were to rephrase what you're saying, it would be make a map and a self-referential map.
Yeah, there would be no like static assertions or whatever. It's all floating relations.
Right. Which
So
is kind of what uh, that's kind of like jumping from the abstract layer to the mimetic one. Actually, like that's what you're trying to get to. That's what it would mean.
sounds good. Yep. And um, this is like the map of my dreams, basically. Like I've been trying to figure out how to do this for like it's probably been years now. Um,
I think it's been tried for like millennia. You got attempts like IndrasNet and all of that stuff going on.
yeah.
So, I mean, fractals and stuff come into wordplay quite a lot because of it.
Hmm. So what you have then is this technology for comparing meaning between individuals.
Sure.
The purpose is not to create one authoritative map, like the official map.
Right, which
You'll
not
have you'll have popular maps though, which people then link to, and synchronicity is basically what would drive um, the the fact that these maps all seem to be very similar because
right.
we're all humans having similar experiences. So you're getting to the core of meaning of existing or whatever, or your world, your experiences.
Mm-hmm. Right,
So
so that's like the
that's an idea.
isomorphic thing, right?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep,
So we think that that's kind of like the phrasing we're settling on, isn't it?
yep,
Okay.
yep. Because the experiences are isomorphic because of the underlying fractal organism.
Well, for
Uh,
one, like the whole idea of having the same five, quote unquote, five senses or whatever, right?
yep.
The idea
Hmm.
is not so much how many senses you really have, because, I mean, that's kind of like a pathological discussion there. Um, the idea here is that it converges for the individual beings, specifically human beings.
Hmm.
But beyond that, there is a kind of like an understanding that there's different animals involved in the same kind of sensory
Hmm.
game.
Yep,
Um, just the fact of perceiving or not perceiving light or
yep,
vibrations as sound, or even
yep,
if they're not as sound or just felt in some way,
yep.
still
That's
transference.
interesting context, as if we're a part of this. ecosystem.
Well, we have to consider if not necessarily the sameness, it's similarity, right?
Hmm.
And that's why we use the word isomorphism. It kind of gives us the freedom to jump
Not the
around a little
exact.
bit. Well, yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
a mapping. It specifically is meant to be just a mapping, not an exact one.
Hmm.
So seeing and sensing light can be considered isomorphic. Sensing vibrations and sensing sound can be considered isomorphic, and likewise, chemical reactions like at the skin level can be considered along the same lines as tastes and smells,
Mm.
right? Which is again, none of it is really a scientific discussion of senses. They're just relative concepts.
Hmm. Cool.
Anyway, it's all part of the same mix of programming.
So, so that would be a cool idea, getting a word cloud going. There's also
Right, me and my tangents.
another. It's all right. It's good. Another piece of um, protocol technology, um, which we might be, which might be good for us. I, I I linked you to that book called The Glass Bead Game, which
Okay.
they in the book they never actually explain the exact game itself, the like what the purpose is or the point. But from my experience and what I've been able to gather, it's basically mapping this archetypal space, um, and showing how.
Linky, sorry. Linky, get down. No thanks. Get down. This kid's a climber.
And showing how basically everything relates to each
Sorry,
other.
if I disappear for a second. Linky, get down. All right. I have a few more minutes.
Oh yeah,
no,
is
no,
that it?
no, no, not a few
Oh,
minutes, and that's
for
it. A
now.
few more minutes of not having to jump my attention.
Yeah, cool. So um, we have a kind of primitive version of this game going already, um, which we can test it out or whatever. Um, but eventually, I will be helping to develop the rules of this game to to its full potential, which is
Okay.
mapping that the archetypal space. Um,
And so it's a game. I'm a little
yeah,
confused here. Like,
yeah. So the way that I did it with Anders, we did one session, and um, basically it's like a peer-to-peer synchronization.
I'm jealous, by the way.
Why?
You are cheating on me with Anders
Oh
over
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
me
Um,
hard over there.
no, we need to sync him up with our work too. So,
No, I know. Just giving you shit because
yep.
I'm like that.
Oh yeah. So so just to give a quick idea, I'll just tell you what we did. So we have um, a spreadsheet with a few columns. The left column is basically alternating between our names, so we each
Hmm.
take a turn. The second column is a quick description or phrase of some activity that you would like to do together, um, or discuss or develop or whatever. So it's kind of like a detailing of your friendship, kind of like what you want to do together, either short term, long term, and then you kind of prioritize what you want to do. So for example, in our game, um, Anders, it's actually our number one priority after we sorted it. Catch me up on Brian and Jenya's work. So that's what we're going to be doing, like me and Anders. Hopefully we can get him in on like one of these Zoom meetings or whatever.
Yeah.
And then each row is um, shaded in a color to kind of um, give it a like a
More alarm.
no. So it's titled abstract effective meaning. Um, so here yellow is easy mindless tasks or familiar. Um, green leavening tasks which give you energy and a new effect. Purple dreaming, imaginal, creative brainstorming tasks, mysterious effect. Blue tasks requiring media consumption like reading or viewing, technical effect. Red, difficult tasks, blocks, frustrating tasks, passionate effect. And black, we didn't end up getting into any of this, but basically it's like to reject something.
uh, so anti-social tasks or
Um,
anti
like
thing.
like if I propose something and you're like no, that would be like you playing a card to nullify the one that I played. The game has a physical manifestation using like index cards potentially, but we just used the spreadsheet because it's online.
Yeah.
Um, so, like just for further example, the next thing in our list, this is after sorting. So we went one after another, whatever we could think of. He wanted to catch me up on some of his myth making mythology about bees. I proposed create a new SOTS Corp or spectacle agency product for the podcast. He proposed create a final copy of the initial team protocols in PDF, and he proposed looks like binder protocols for
I
analyzing
have
this.
to pause this for a little bit.
Okay,
Um,
you got